is called the Vyas Asana. Asana means seat, and Vyas is the compiler of all the Vedic literature. He's the author. Previously it was oral tradition, he wrote it all down. So when one is sitting on this seat, it's actually, the seat is offered in honor to the message and words of Vyasadeva, the original author of the Vedas. And it also reminds the person speaking that they don't say, well, I think, in my opinion. I was in Srila Prabhupada's room one time. Srila Prabhupada is the founder of the Harekrishna movement. And some man kept saying, good heavens, I'm missing something. I forgot to bring my notes. Anybody see a iPad case here? Well, that's interesting. Okay, we'll just wing it. It'll be a short talk. I was in Srila Prabhupada's room one time, and a man kept saying, well, as far as I know. Well, as far as I know. Well, as far as I know. About 3 or 4 times of this, Srila Prabhupada stopped him and said, that's my point. How far do you know? Now, we don't know what's happening on the other side of this wall. We don't know what's happening outside. You know, and how many, what small spectrum of a light prism do we see? There's so many. What do we know? Oh, I think So when one sits on this seat, they're supposed to not present their own opinion, but they present the words of Vyasadeva. There's 3 things. Anyone? I hate to bring you back to basic mathematics. Did you ever graph a quadratic equation in algebra? You got to, and you find the 2 points, you draw a line, and the 3rd point has to fall on, which confirms. So those 3 points in a line confirm. The Vedic literature is based on 3 things. It's not blind faith. Well, I think, I feel, whatever. No. It's based on what's called Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. So when one sits on this seat, they have to speak according to Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. Shastra means what's in the Vedic literature, what's in the scripture. He has to speak according to that. Then he has to be coming in a disciplic succession, a line of master, disciple, and he has to speak that message. What he's heard from his guru, what his guru heard from his guru. So he has to speak in the, welcome back, my little friend. Or is that a new little friend? So he has to speak according to the scripture, Shastra. He has to speak what he's heard from his guru, from his teacher, in the line of disciplic succession. And he has to speak what other great saintly persons have said. Then if he's saying that, in other words, there's a you check. We're not interested in blind faith. But Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, then you know you're actually hearing the truth. Not I think, as far as I know. So today is Easter Sunday, and I thought, although I don't have my notes, I thought I would try to say a little something about Jesus, what is our Vaishnava view, and also an appreciation of him, which gives you a hint what our view is, and a commonality of genuine spiritual traditions, and a few other things. So we'll see how far we get. I guess I'll say it this way. There is something called Sanatan Dharma. That is the Vedic term. Bible, biblical, Quran, Quranic. So we say Vedic. It's based on the Vedas. And Sanatan means eternal. Dharma means truth. Eternal truth. I mean, it has other meanings. It means way, path, it means a number of things. But it also means truth. So Sanatan Dharma means truth. What kind of truth? Eternal truth. Now, and you have, practically speaking, some of the most vicious wars in the world are between different proponents of religions. I mean, you look at it, you got the Muslims are fighting with the Christians are fighting with the Jews are fighting, you know, people just, and you've even got Catholics fight, what is it, in North Ireland, they were fighting for, you know, they just go at it. You've got the Buddhists fighting with the Muslims in Myanmar. They just go at it hammer and tong. So, what's missing here? And I can be a Catholic today, I can be an evangelist the next day, I can become a Jewish, I can convert to Islam. I mean, we can do so many things. So faith is a kind of cultural practice. It's a certain set of, they have an old saying, of course we're vegetarian, non-violent, but what do they say? It doesn't matter if the cat is black or white as long as it catches mice. So, you know, people have this approach, they have that approach. They worship on Friday. Friday is Islam,
Yes.
Saturday is Jewish, and Sunday is the Christian, generally speaking, isn't it? So they worship on different days, they worship in the, you know, and even you go to India, I mean, India's got it all, you know, bow down here, stand up, sit, you know, it's a whole thing going on. So those are particular practices, and we're not, my guru used to say, here's the bottom line, whatever practice actually invokes genuine love of God, we respect that. We respect that tradition. You judge, you judge a thing by its result. That which actually produced the result, you go at it hammer and tong, this one, that one, and miss the whole point. As an old friend of mine from Arkansas used to say, there's more than one way to be wrong. You can be wrong in all kinds of different ways. So, or have the right spirit, you know, whatever. So the Vedic tradition is presenting what we call Sanatana Dharma. I'll give you an example. I can say, well, I have, let's see, 16 30 seconds. Well, I've got 8 16ths. Well, I've got 4 8s. And they can go at it, arguing, hammer and tongs, beating each other on the head. No. It's 8 16ths. No. It's 16 30 seconds. Oh, you're both wrong. It's 4 8s. What are they talking about? They're talking about the same. If you reduce it to the lowest common denominator, it's 1/2. So they're talking about 1/2. But so one of the Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic literature, presents what eternal, essential truths. Is there Islamic math, Christian math? Do they have a difference?
No.
Is 1 + 1 is 2? Is that true in Jewish tradition, but not true in the Islamic tradition? Can I tell you a quick joke? It's a little off the track, and I've lost my notes, so it just is a joke. And I'll pick on the Vaishnavas. You know, we're Vaishnavas, worshippers of Krishna, the Supreme. So there's a Jewish man, there's a Catholic man, and there's a Krishna Bhakta. And they're determining how they give donations to their church, temple, or whatever it is. So the Jewish guy says, you know, I draw a circle, I throw my money up, whatever lands inside the circle, I give to the temple, whatever lands outside, I keep. Catholic guy says, you know, I have a similar method. The only difference is I draw a circle, I throw the money up. What lands inside, I keep. What lands outside, I give to the temple. The Vaishnava says, I just throw the money up, whatever God wants, he keeps. So, I don't know exactly how that could go off, but the point is that what is Sanatana Dharma? What are those common truths? You may do it this way, that was my point. You may do it this way, you may do it that way. And people argue at it hand and tongue. It's called kanista. Kanista means that they can't see the essence of the thing. They can only see the superficiality. You will find every genuine spiritual tradition has core values. Sometimes people, because they have a superficial, they say, oh, there's so many religions and they all say something. dismiss them all. They all say something different. Actually, they don't all say something different. They actually say the same things. If you strip away the veneer of the particulars of the practice or expression, there's the same beliefs at the core of the thing. You know, if I tell you, the talk's over at 7 and we're going to serve a nice Krishna prasadam. Okay, I say that. Well, you may not believe me. I just want you to sit here while I'm talking. You think, well, maybe they'll be good. But, you know, Bhujmadev says the same thing. Zach says the same thing. Balaram says the same. You know, you get a pretty good sense. Okay, well, I guess there's going to be a feast, right? There is, don't worry. I don't want to shake your confidence. There is. They're all the great saints in every tradition. They say the same things. Maybe it's true. They all say the same. You go to 3 or 4 experts and they all say the same thing. You think, well, geez, that's probably the way it is. Cornerstone, we're not this body. We're not black, we're not white, we're not American, we're not Russian. We've been male, we've been female. But we're not this body. What are we? But Jesus says the body is a temple. So we're living inside the temple. It's a temple for the soul. So what does that mean? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the body's a city made of 9 gates. We're living inside that city. 9 gates, 2 ears, 2 noses. You can do the math. I mean, 2 nostrils. You can do the math. So, and they all say the same thing. We're not this body. Oh, we have that is the, well, I guess I'll say it. I was at we have a wonderful festival called Ratha Yatra in Los Angeles, and they pull these big carts. It's been going on for thousands of years. In fact, if you notice, this one section of the altar is blocked off. Next Sunday, we take our Jagannath deities out for a big it's Earth Day. So it's a lot of fun anyway. There's a park, it's a nice clean park, and it's, you know, clean family fun. It's a fun event, the Earth Day. And we have a booth. The devotees are chanting, we're distributing books. We have a booth that serves out a full vegetarian feast. So if you're going to Earth Day, and if you weren't, you could go, and look for the devotees. The Ratha Yatra starts at 10. 10 to 11 is the parade. We have a small cart, but it's a nice cart. We pulled our deities of Lord Jagannath. And then we have a bhajan booth. We're chanting from 11 till 5, it ends at 5. And we have a wonderful prasadam booth, which includes pizza, all cooked by devotees. What's not to love? So that's next Sunday. So at our Los Angeles Ratha Yatra, there were these 2, we have a free food booth. I was managing that, we're serving it out. There was a question and answer booth to the side. And one of my good friends with Jayadvaita Swami was answering the question and answer booth. And he's very, you know, he's smart and he's witty and he's, you know, quite perceptive. So I wanted to hear how he was answering the question. So the booth was going on, I sidled out. I was in the back of the crowd and I was trying to hear what he was saying. And frankly, I was stuck behind these 2 large men. They were big size. They were super size. They were, let us say, land whales. They were big size. I was trying to see around them, you know. And I heard Jayadvaita Swami say, the essence of the beginning point, the common denominator, the beginning point, the access point to genuine spiritual life is to understand that we are not this body. At which point, one of these large land whales, one of these men said to his friend, well, that's a relief. It was heartfelt. It was a genuine, you know. But we're not this. We don't grow old. We don't die. We've survived so many changes. You know, you get anyway. I don't want to belabor that point, but that we're not this body, and that this is not our home. That is a big shock. We're all trying to. Somebody, you know, they don't know anything. Somebody said, accused us of escapism. You're trying to escape. Now, if your house catches on fire in the middle of the night and you run out of the house, are you accused of escapism? Did you run out of a burning building? I mean, if you stop and make a sandwich in the kitchen and hang around, I mean, is that considered a sign of intelligence? It's a burning building, get out. even if you go simply by the law of friction, everything in this world is rubbing against something. Ultimately, it's rubbing up against time. And everything, birth, growth, maturation, culmination, dissolution, decline, or death. Everything is going in this cycle. Every social system, every philosophical system, our bodies, everything we see. The Vedas say we're living in a river of names only. It's earth, fire, water, air, ether. And it's taking this form. But, I mean, this used to be an Elks Lodge, believe it or not. It was a movie theater. This building was a factory. So, but now it's a temple. So this world is always in a constant state of flux and shift. And even if, and people are trying to maintain it. Everybody's trying to like, I gotta get my stuff, and I gotta protect my stuff, and I gotta get more stuff, and I'm envious of your stuff. Everybody's trying to push it all around. But ultimately, what happens? Can you take your stuff with you? What do you? There's a Guru Nanak story. Guru Nanak is a great teacher in the Sikh tradition. He was actually a Krishna Bhakta. So Guru Nanak, he was visiting a town, and one man told his friend, "Oh, this saintly person, this sage, is going to come and speak at this temple, and you'll like it. You should come." Now the man was very rich. We're not picking on rich people. There are very many pious rich people, and there's poor fools. I mean, it's not. Foolishness is a universal, it finds its way in so much. So we're not picking on rich people, but this man happened to be very attached to his things. And he said, I know what this guy's going to say. He's going to say, depend on the Supreme, but, at the end of the thing, he's going to ask me for money. He's going to ask me for something. So I don't want to go. His friend convinced him, no, this is a different type of sadhu, you should go. And afterwards, there'll be a great feast anyway. So the guy thought, I can do anything for an hour. Just like everything, I can sit through this guy. Okay. How much longer is he going to go? So, and there'll be a nice feast afterwards. So the man goes, Guru Nanak speaks, the saintly person speaks. And sure enough, at the end of the thing, he points at the rich man and says, can I speak with you? The rich man thinks, well, I knew it. Here it comes. I knew it was going to happen. I should have dodged it, should have just waited till the feast, And Guru Nanak said, can you help me? I need your help. The guy thought, what a setup, he's asking for land or money or something, And Guru Nanak says, I have this needle. I use this needle for sewing up my cloth. I get a little tear, you sew it up. He said, but I'm almost losing it. He said, can you just take this needle for me, and you just keep it for me, and you give it to me my next life? Now, can you buy, in India I think you can buy a single needle, can't you? But in America, you can't even buy a single needle. It's $1.50 for a pack, I don't know what it is, but you can't even buy a single needle. It's such an insignificant thing. And the man thought, well, I can't do that. And he thought, I can't even keep track of a needle. So what are all my things, everything what is it? So this is not our real home. If I get up and walk out that door, poof, do I cease to exist? Badrinarayan Swami, he was here, now he's there. He's somewhere else. When the sun, of course the earth is actually changing, the sun is, they used the Kuyamaki Indians. You know the Kuyamaki Indians? They used to be out there in Kuyamaka. They were out there in the mountains, out the lagoon and all that stuff. They used to, and they also came all the way to the coast. They used to think, if the sun is hot, right? I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. The sun is hot, it comes up, it warms up. What happens if you take a hot thing and put it in water? Huh? Yeah, it goes off, right? So they used to think, and it was not, I'm not picking on them, it was a belief in many traditions, that the sun travels across the sky, and when it lands in the ocean, it goes out. So they had a priest, talk about job security, the priest's job was to stay up all night and pray that the sun would come back. I mean, that's a good gig if you can get it, you know? Everybody says, you take a nap, you wake up, oh, hey, he did his magic, you know? You're guaranteed employment. So, but it's obviously just our angle of vision. The sun, we may not be able to see the sun, but the sun is still shining. There is a kingdom of God. There is a spiritual dimension. And that is our real home. We're not this body, we're the soul within. And this temporary, fleeting world where we're chasing after stuff and everything is conquered by time, and everything is ripped out of our fingers again and again and again. Old age, all the teeth, all the hair. See people with a comb over, you know, trying to maintain the thing, you know, glue it down. I mean, liposuction, what are you know, bow tie. I mean, give it a rest. You know, and it's so much anxiety. So, this is the same message. We're not this body. This is not our real home. There's the kingdom of God. And to get there, how to get there? What is the methodology? I mean, Buddha, we could go through each of the traditions. So my point is, there is a commonality. There is a common denominator. Like you can reduce, 32 64ths and 16 32nds, you can reduce it to 1/2. That common denominator that runs through all genuine chanting of the holy names of God. On beads. Catholics do it. They're chanting on Rosary. Muslims are doing it. Buddhists do it. They're chanting names of Buddha. Jewish tradition. Hey, maybe there's something to it, So, the tendency is to think that today's Easter, it's Jesus, it's something outside of our tradition. But actually, Jesus was teaching the exact same thing. Now, we're going to talk about a few things. And one who understands that, we have our Bhaktivedanta Institute, and it was started by the Harekrishna, the founder of the Harekrishna movement, and it's people who are trained in hearts, PhDs, Padabhaya and deeper, for permanent head damage, chronic community disorder, but used for Krishna, then it's a very nice thing. We're not discounting education, it's a very good thing. So it's a group of PhDs, masters in heart sciences that does research on Vedic principles and presents them. And they do conferences, they do presentations. They peer review, they're printed in all kinds of scientific journals. It's sort of quite an interesting field. So what was I going to say? So two of these scientists, one is named Sariputta, the other's named Rasaraj. And they're your typical scientists. Sariputta Prabhu was coming into the temple to have darshan of the deities. Rasaraj was just leaving. And when you come into the temple, you take your shoes off and you leave, you put your shoes on. They met each other. I happened to be standing in the hall. They immediately locked into a conversation. And I came back an hour and a half later. They were both standing there. Each of them had one shoe off, one shoe on. And they were gone. They were just, what do they call it? Compact in thought. They were just lost in thought. And they were in a completely different world, So, if a genuine practitioner, someone who has realizations, in one tradition, they meet someone of another tradition, they get along fine. Rather, they share realizations, they share experiences. The principle of bhakti, there is a Christian, again, I forgot my notes, so we're raging a little bit. There is a Christian, it's a medieval story from French Christianity. It's quite good, I like it. So it's outside our tradition, but we're talking about Jesus a little bit. It goes like this. There was a monastery, monks' monastery, and it was the Virgin Mary's birthday, the celebration of the birth of the Virgin Mary. So everybody wanted to do something. So they had different skills. And one person was an expert musician. So he composed a concerto in, Ave Maria or whatever, something beautiful in honor of the Virgin Mary. Another guy was a painter, so he painted a beautiful. A guy was a sculptor. What is it, La Pieta? Not La Pieta. What is the thing? Is it La Pieta that she's holding? Mother Mary's holding him? I mean, it's just stunning. You just wait for the thing to move. It's unbelievable. So one man was a sculptor, another man, expert, another was a, expert musician, another guy was a painter. So they all offered their different things. One man had been a circus juggler. He didn't have any other skills. He was a circus juggler. And that's, people think, well, I just a circus. Exactly. So he waited till everyone left the sanctuary, the chapel. And he stayed up all night long juggling. Juggled candlesticks, juggled whatever he could. It was his offering to the Virgin. He gave his heart. And the story goes, it's a story, but the story goes, when all the monks came in the morning, after offering all of their different things to the Virgin Mary, the man had passed out. He'd fallen asleep in exhaustion. And the Virgin Mary had his head on his lap and was caressing him. Because his offering was humble, pure, and saturated with love. Whatever he had, he gave the best that he could in the honor of the Supreme, of Krishna, of God. So that's bhakti. That spirit of bhakti has the root of bhakti is service. I was reading the Sermon on the Mount before I came over, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And we'll get into that in a second. Remind me, I want to say a few things about that. So I can hear our fundamentalist, Christian railing. What do you mean you're saying it's the same thing? Jesus is God. But if you look at it, if you actually read what Jesus said and what his disciples, and what is it, Matthew, Luke, John, who have I forgotten? Mark. So, the four Gospels, they all say the same thing. Jesus never says, I am God. He always says, I'm the Son of God, talks about his Father. Isn't it? I mean, you read the thing. When he talks about oneness, that oneness is if I take a drop of water from the ocean, it'll have so much sodium, so much this, so I can analyze it chemically. And if I take the whole ocean, it'll have the same chemical composition. It's not a difference in quality, it's a difference in quantity. You have a fire, you have the spark from the fire. They're the same in quality, they're not the same in quantity. You have a ray from the sun. It's the same in quality, it's not the same in quantity. So the oneness is, we are all eternal. The Vedic literature is Sat Chit Ananda. We're all eternal. In our natural, pure, spiritual state, everyone's eternal, everyone's full of knowledge, and everyone is full of happiness. And that is the same as the Supreme, Krishna, God, the Father. So there's a oneness in quality, but certainly not in quantity. So Jesus says, yes. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the light, and no man comes to the Father, please note, comes to the Father but through me. Well, he's teaching pure devotional service. There's no other way. We'll have questions in a second. Is it okay? I'm reminding all the in time for questions. So, there's only one way. If this door was locked, and that door was locked, and that door was locked, and I said there's only one way out of the room, I mean, that's a true statement. The only way is by following the teachings of Jesus, which are the same teachings, coming to the point of pure bhakti. Jesus says in Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. The common presentation, if you actually read, those are serious practitioners, but we're talking about that's very genuine, and we offer our deeper. There's many things we can learn from the Christians, actually, many things we can learn. But the superficial presentation, when it says that we just accept Jesus and we're saved, we can go on sinning. It's very convenient that confession is on Friday. Clears the way for the weekend. So, but Jesus says, blessed be the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Now let's graph that as a simple equation. What is it, if this side of the equation, I don't believe you with algebra, but let's take one side. Blessed are the pure of heart equals what? We just said it. They'll see God. Pure of heart, they'll see God. Now, if you have an equation that equals, and you add the same thing to the equation, both sides of the equation, it's still true. Basic algebra. I thought, look, anyway, if I say if you're not pure of heart, for that equation to balance, what happens to see God? You won't see God. You want to see God? You got to be pure of heart. And Jesus lays out how to do that. So you'll find that in every tradition. When I first came, I love sweets. I do. This is sometimes Oprah moment here. I love sweets. So I can't eat them, but I love them. You eat them and I'll watch. So what was that again? Oh, when I first came to the temple, first time, Srila Prabhupada was speaking, and I was completely bewildered and trying to claw up from the modes of ignorance and passion. And Prabhupada had his sweet Bengali accent, and he said, "We have so many donuts." I thought he said donuts. I thought, fantastic, But I walked in mid-sentence. I said, I came because I had become a vegetarian as a child. And the hardest thing for me to give up was because they put eggs in all kinds of, I love sweets. I love baked sweets. Cookies, cakes, donuts. And they always put eggs. You don't need to, but they always put eggs in them. So I had to give them up, right? Can't eat eggs, so can't eat the sweets. Donuts. I said, fantastic. I've come to the right place, But then as I listened, Prabhupada was explaining the basic principle, yama and niyama. In every tradition, there's yama and niyama. There's do's and there's do-nots. You see the farmer in the field. Go to Burma, go to India, go anywhere where they're growing rice. The farmer, you see him, he's got the bucket, he's got the basket there with the shoots, and he's putting the shoots in the paddy field, and he's pulling out the weeds. You got to do both. You don't pull out the weeds, what happens to the shoots? They're choked out, isn't it? You got to pull the weeds, and you got to. So, in every spiritual tradition, there's things that you need to do. Rise early in the morning, vegetarian, don't take intoxication, avoid the association with materialistic persons. There's all kinds of, guidelines. And there's things that you should do. There's do's and don'ts. So Jesus explained, you want to be pure of heart. It's not that you just, light a candle and bow down and confess on Friday and go out and do all nonsense on Sunday. Or Saturday and Sunday. And Jesus doesn't say that. So when Jesus is saying the same thing, he's talking about, I'm the Son who. So Son means, what has to be there? Son with an O.
Father.
Has to be a father. Who's the father? Krishna's the father. So there's no problem there. How do we define Krishna? Cause of all causes. He who known is greater than or equal to. All attractive. Source of all beauty, all strength, all wealth. And we take the definition, look at the definition of God. What's the problem? We're talking about the same thing. So we're not arguing with Jesus on that point. We're not when he says, I'm the only way. He was the only way. And what he said is the only way. You're only going to come to God if you develop godly qualities. Blessed be the merciful, blessed be the peacemaker, blessed be the Sermon on the Mount. All those, unless we actually practice. I was getting money change one time. I was going to India, it was a long time ago, and I had some dollars. I needed some money when I landed. And I was in New York. New York, everybody. In their own way, they get right to the heart of the thing. So a lady looked out, the lady at the Cooks or Thomas Brothers or whatever it was. I'm dressed like this. She said, that's what I like about you Hare Krishna people. She said, you are what you pretend to be. She meant to say you are what you're supposed to be, but you are what you pretend to be. So all of us, we have a public self and we have an internal self, and one of the core things of spiritual life is to get who we want to be to who we actually are, to align those things. Like you have it's juxtaposed and it's askew. To get those things to line up is part of spiritual life. That I'm not what I pretend to be, I am what I'm supposed to be. And that becomes our core self. So Jesus is talking about that. So we could go on and on like this. Now, a few places that we apparently differ. So I tried to share some commonality, which is true, and where we appear to differ. But do you know, do a Google search on it, that great oracle of truth. Look in Wikipedia or Google it. His name is Origen. Origin? How is it? O-R-G-I-N. I forget how you pronounce it.
O-R-I-G-E-N. Oregon.
Origen.
I'm talking about one of the original founding fathers. There's different spelling, but the point's okay. He's one of the original founding fathers of the church. And many of them say the same thing. For the first 500 years, until, I think it was that Emperor Justin, Constantinople, they taught reincarnation, and they taught vegetarianism. You have vestiges of it still. What? You have vestiges of it. You have the Franciscan monks, you have the Benedictine monks. They're still vegetarian. At least last time I tuned in, they still were. If you're a Catholic, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you're a Catholic, what's purgatory?
Here.
Purgatory is official Catholic doctrine. You haven't committed cardinal sins. I think it's cardinal sins, or you haven't just really blown it completely. But you're not qualified. If you're a cardinal, you commit a cardinal sin, you're going to hell. Sorry, unless you kid Jesus. But if you have a venal sin, whatever it is, but you're not good enough to go into heaven yet. You need to be purified. They give the example of you burn off mercury out of gold and they have the pure gold. So they have a place where you go. It's not hell, it's not heaven, and you work off your karma. You're not quite ready to go. What's that place? It's a vestige of the principle of reincarnation. Because here's the reason. I was raised in Christian tradition. And I tell you what you're hearing now, which is not what was originally taught. What you're hearing now, you only have one life, and if you don't accept Jesus, you go to heaven or hell. Right? You ever hear that? Heaven or hell. That's it. One life. Don't blow it. See, I raise children, as I was saying earlier. Sometimes you tell kids, hey, this is it. Don't blow it. You got one shot. You have to tell them like that. You don't give them a bunch of alternatives because they're going to, kids, any way they can, they're going to go in a different direction. So you figure who Jesus was speaking to. He said, this is it. I'm the only way, and if you blow it, you're going to hell. Okay, you got my attention, But if you think about it, here's a question. And this vexed me until I read Bhagavad Gita. If there's God, and it's reasonable to think that there's God, wherever we see order, pattern, symmetry, we're not talking blind faith here. Wherever we see order, pattern, symmetry, design, there's intelligence behind it, isn't it? Well, this is a beautiful room, so who designed it? If there's a nice feast, who cooked it? That is the universal human experience. Rather, where there's a lack of intelligence, then there's chaos, then there's confusion, then there's disorder. You with me for that? Anything wrong in this simple logic? Where there's order, pattern, symmetry, design, there's intelligence behind it. We live in a profoundly ordered universe. I sat next to an atheist. I was on a plane. I'll be quick. I was on a plane, and it's completely packed. The guy sits down next to me. Happened to be Indian. Sat down next to me. I'm dressed like this. He said, "Oh, I see, Swamiji, that you are a Krishna Bhakta, but I am an atheist." I thought, "Oh man, this is going to be a long flight." I said, "Oh, what a Krishna's arrangement, you know. We're supposed to learn, you know, tolerance." I thought, "Okay, I can deal with it, you know, whatever. You know, we'll see where it goes." So I asked him, "What do you do?" He said, "I am an aeronautic engineer." He said, I designed the 777, or whatever it is, Dreamliner. I was very proud of it. And you know, that's an accomplishment. I wasn't going to discount him for that. I said, "Oh, very good." I said, "Did you do the whole thing yourself?" He said, No. I was part of one team. He was the team that did the aeronautics. I said, "How many teams were there?" He said, "Well, there was the mechanical team, there was the fuel team, there was the electrical team. There was so many teams. I mean, he added up, there were about 10 different teams." Okay. He said, "How many on a team?" He said, "Anywhere from 10 to 15. So let's be conservative. 100 minimum. That doesn't include all the things that they subcontracted and bought from other people. But to build that 777, it took 100 of the best and brightest." Okay? Now, I don't mean to spook anyone. Well, they can go how many miles an hour? 600 miles max? Pedal to the metal? Something like that. 600 miles, well, that's impressive. They're also the biggest pollutants. I think the airplane fuel is the biggest pollutant, well, certainly one of the biggest pollutants. I don't mean to spook anybody, but they crash sometimes. Whoops, you know, I mean, you know, it happens. I'm sorry, but it happens. Chant Hare Krishna on the way down. They rock, you know, there's all kinds of turbulence, you know, they fasten your seatbelts. They're cramped, you know, I mean, I'm going to have somebody next time just send me, put me in a box and send me. I'll bring my own snacks. It'd probably be more uncomfortable. I'll probably have more leg room, maybe more comfortable. I just mail myself in a box and when it's, you know, frayed or something. So anyway, you know, and I mean, I don't want to belabor the thing. Okay, so let's compare that. Krishna says, "Bhoktaram Jagatapasam." Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that I am the source of all the planets. I mean, we look out, there's so many planets, all going around the sun, so many universes. But let's just take this one planet Earth. Let's just, no magical thinking here, no blind faith, let's just compare and contrast, okay? Just, you know, compare and contrast. Earth, your Dreamliner, 500, 600 miles. The planet Earth is going around the sun 1,800 miles per second. Try that in your, and it's spinning. Hey, try that in your Dreamliner, you know? So, okay. It's a perfect, this thing is one of the biggest pollutants. Planet Earth is a perfect free energy machine. You know, left alone, if we weren't mucking everything up, you know, we can go into it, but it's completely self-replicating, self-producing, cleanses itself, so many things. Anybody ever get, I mean, flights are expensive. You want to fly to, do you ever get a ticket? Anyone here ever get a bill? I mean, how many times have we been, I hope we get frequent flyer miles, but how many times have we been around the sun? So you can figure the mile. How much do we owe? If that was, you're not United. If it was, whatever it was, Singapore Airlines, you'd be paying for the thing. We don't get a bill. You ever get an announcement from Boomi the day of, planet Earth, fasten your seatbelts, we're going to get some turbulence. We don't even feel it. Plenty of leg room, you can bring on all the baggage you want, the Himalayas are on board, no overweight charge. So just compare and contrast 100 of the best and brightest to make that little mosquito of a plane. In the grand scheme of things, it's insignificant. I mean, I don't want to, but compared to planet Earth. And this one he's very proud of, but this one he says, I'm an atheist, no intelligence behind it. When I said this to him, I said, please, what's your answer? He said, "Oh, Swami, I have to drink my tea." It was great. He left me alone. I left him alone. And we went on just fine. So, but my point is, where we see order, pattern, symmetry, and design, there's intelligence behind it. That's the universal experience. And yet we're asked, anyway, I won't get into that. So here's my point. If there's only one life, and if there's God, and God by definition is all merciful, all powerful, right? He's all powerful, omnipotent, they say, and all merciful. Now, how is it that if there's no previous life, there's no previous karma, there's no factor that determines that state which you're born into? You know, you didn't do this, you're not picking up where you left off. You graduate from first grade, you go to second grade, you're dumb, and you flunk whatever it is, and you got to take the course over again. I mean, there's all different ways that it works. Assuming that this place, this world, our existence is meant for education, which the Latin means to draw from darkness into light. That's the actual purpose, not to gather stuff, but to move from darkness into light. That's real education. How is it, if God is all merciful and God is all powerful, one child is born with sight and the other child is blind? One person has an easy life, and the other person just scrabbling in the dirt to find a kernel of barley. I raised 2 children. I love them dearly. They're good kids by Krishna's grace. Survived me somehow or other. So, can I pick my children? Hey, my son's Neela Madhava. Everything's going to go great for you. You're healthy, you're attractive, you're going to get all the breaks in life. My daughter, Anasuya, well, it's going to suck for you, Lord. Can a good father do that? A mother? How can you possibly do it? And if God is all powerful, it means that he has the means to fix it, isn't it? Hey, what's this? Bye-bye, my little friend. He has the means to fix it. But he doesn't. But by definition, God is all merciful. It means that his heart, he feels the deepest compassion. Krishna is known as Dinu Bandhu, the friend of the fallen, the friend of the poor. Karuna Sindhu, he's an ocean of mercy. So if God is there, which by design, order, pattern, symmetry is reasonable, how can we only have one life, and if we don't get it, we burn forever in hell? If you look at it, you look at the weather system, this world has got so many interrelated, finely tuned systems. I mean, let's just, assuming for a second that God is there. Of course, Krishna does it from his agent of his agent of his agent. He computes the word, and you've got Lord Brahma who designs the universe. But a lot of thought went into it, a lot of work. So how is it? Krishna designs, the ocean, he's got the weather, he's got all that worked out. All those systems are all worked out. And they're profound. I mean, just the weather. I was talking to a guy, Ram Ramanathan, who will probably get a Nobel Peace Prize. He's up at UCSD. He's one of the best climatologists in the world. And he said, we're just scraping the surface of how things work, how it all fits together. He said, we're really just scraping the surface. So many complex systems. And if the whole purpose of existence is to deliver the souls to the kingdom of God, the best he could come up with is funky one life, burn forever in hell if you don't make it. God spent so much time designing so many other things. Oh, just ran out of time? Gee, I forgot the best I could do. So, but if one accepts karma and transmigration of the self, the soul goes on. When this body becomes old and useless, as Krishna says, I move into another body. Makes complete sense. And each life is a lesson. You can go up, you can go down. If we're very proud and arrogant, we're put in a position where someone is proud and arrogant to us. You can say, well, I don't remember my past life. I am almost 65 years old. I haven't tried it recently, but I can get on a bicycle and ride. Do I remember? I remember, do I remember subliminal, how I learned how to ride a bicycle? We walked. Did anybody just, at whatever the age was, just stand up and walk? How do most people learn how to walk?
Fall down.
You get up, you fall down, you get up, you fall, you crawl, you work it out, But when you walk, we're almost done, I promise. When you walk, do you have to think about it? Oh, one foot in front of the other, how does it work here? So the fact that you don't remember consciously doesn't mean you don't remember subliminally. Actually, Krishna within the heart, what is it? Sarvasha Chaham Hridisani Visto. Krishna's in the heart. He gives all intelligence, remembrance, forgetfulness. So Krishna's giving everyone intelligence, everyone remembrance. And in this way, each way is a lesson. And there's a progression. So that every living entity, every soul, ultimately gets delivered. Free will is the perfect balance of free will and God's mercy. The principle of reincarnation and transmigration of the soul. So that's just one example. And I think because of the circus, it's time to go. But today is Easter. Srila Prabhupada one time was asked. Prabhupada stayed at a monastery one time. He was speaking in Australia to a group of Christian monks. And he got there late at night, and it was arranged that he spoke the next morning. It's a great tape if you listen to it. And Prabhupada stayed in his room, and after about an hour and a half, he called for he had a servant secretary traveling with him, and he had tears in his eyes. He said, "Can you take this picture out?" And there was a picture of Jesus on the cross. And Prabhupada said, "I cannot, it is too much to look at this. What has happened to Jesus?" They asked Prabhupada about St. Francis, St. Francis of Assisi. They said, "Prabhupada, what about St. Francis?" He said, "He was a wonderful man." And then Prabhupada stopped and said, "Most wonderful." So, if I'm too close, a Persian rug, Oriental rug, if I got my nose right into the thing, what can I see? But if you step back, you say, "Oh, wait a minute. Well, that's a paisley, or that's a tree, and that fits into a garden, and you can see as you get the distance, with the advantage of, a broader vantage point, you can see the whole thing and how it's a pattern." So our humble request is that there are universal principles. We are not at odds with each other. The genuine religious traditions all teach the same thing. And they do teach that we're not this body, that there's a kingdom of God, that's our real home. Prabhupada one time saw that, what is it? You're in good hands with all state. Because Jesus says, what is it? I'm trying to remember the first line, but behold the lilies of the field, they work not nor spin, but never saw them arrayed such as they. Behold the birds in the field. He's making the point. He starts off by saying, don't be in anxiety. Don't spend your whole life in anxiety. How am I going to fill my belly? Dogs and cats do that. Animals do that. And they're all taken care of by the hands of God. Not that we don't do our duty, not that we don't work. I'm not saying that. But we shouldn't be in complete anxiety. Ultimately, we're in the hands of God. Prabhupada saw that you're in good hands with Allstate. The insurance company? And they got the house. It's the American nuclear family. You got the 2 kids, the mother and father, the faithful dog, Fido. Prabhupada saw it. He said, Yokeshvam Bahamyaham. It's a verse in the Gita. That Krishna preserves what we have. He carries what we lack. Prabhupada said, you think you're sitting on the floor? I'm sitting in the hand of Krishna. Jesus is saying the same thing. Don't spend your whole life in anxiety how you're going to fill your belly. Get about your real business. Who are you? Where do you come from? If there's a Supreme Lord, what about trying to serve Him and learn about Him and go to Him? So that's our simple point. Today is Easter. We can meditate on the beautiful teachings of Jesus and know for certain that we're not in competition, but rather the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal truth. It's the same themes. So we can end there because it is 2 minutes after 7. I'll come over and ask you what your question is. Okay, thank you very much.